Ryan Hawley moved through the broken battlefield with slow steps, carrying only a half-charged rifle and a heart full of warnings from command. The war between humans and the alien race called the Vareen had officially ended yesterday, but the ground still shook from fear, smoke, and leftover machines that could explode any second. The sky hung low and gray, and the entire land smelled of burning metal. Ryan had only one mission now: evacuate the zone before nightfall, but something deep inside him felt wrong. Like the battlefield itself was holding its breath, he passed destroyed bunkers and cracked armor pieces, listening carefully for enemy movement. Even though the war had ended, both sides still hated each other. A single mistake could start fighting again. Ryan knew this. His boots crunching over ash was the only sound he heard. Until something else reached him. A tiny cry, weak and frightened. He stopped immediately. His training told him to ignore it, to keep moving. But the cry came again. This time almost like a whisper asking for help. It did not sound like a soldier or a trap. It sounded like a child. Ryan moved slowly toward the broken Vareen bunker, where the sound had come from. He pointed his rifle forward, but lowered it a little. Confused, Vareen children were rarely seen by humans. Their species protected their young fiercely. That was why the war was so brutal. Both sides believed the other would hurt their families. Ryan stepped inside the bunker, and the smell of dust and burnt wiring hit him hard. The place was dark, except for a broken light flickering weakly. Then he saw her, a small Vareen child hiding under metal pipes. Her eyes glowed faintly blue, tears shining on her face. She was trembling so badly her tiny claws scratched at the ground for comfort. Ryan froze. He expected her to scream or attack him or call for soldiers, but she only looked at him with pure fear. And then she whispered one small word in broken basic language: help. And that one word hit Ryan like a punch. He had spent years fighting the Vareen, calling them enemies, monsters, threats. But this little girl looked like any scared child he had seen on Earth during emergency missions. He moved closer slowly, almost silently. He whispered, "I will not hurt you," even though he knew she might not understand. But she did. Her shaking stopped for a second. Her bright eyes blinked with hope. She reached a small hand out toward him. Her fingers were thin, covered in soft glowing lines. Ryan knelt down and lifted the metal pieces trapping her leg. She cried out in pain but did not pull away from him. She trusted him, a human, her enemy, more than the empty bunker around her. Ryan gently picked her up, feeling how light she was, almost weightless, almost fragile. The moment he held her, alarms echoed across the battlefield. Red lights flashed on the bunker wall. Vareen scanners had detected movement. They were coming to search the area for survivors. If they saw Ryan holding a Vareen child, they would assume he kidnapped her. They would kill him on sight. And if human forces saw him carrying an alien child, they would not trust him either. They might shoot before questioning. The danger wrapped around him like cold hands, yet Ryan did not let go. He pressed the child closer to his chest and whispered, "I've got you." He stepped outside the bunker, the sky now burning red with warning lights. The forest ahead shook with sounds of approaching troops. He could see shadows of Vareen warriors searching the ground. He turned back and saw human patrol drones scanning from the other side. He was trapped between two armies that hated each other, and he carried the one thing that could start another war. The child hid her face against him, her small voice trembling. "Mother! Mother!" She was calling for her mother, likely the one searching the battlefield, likely the one leading the troops coming closer. Ryan knew if he wanted to survive, if he wanted her to survive, he had to move fast. He ran toward the evacuation route, his boots hitting the ground hard, carrying the child through smoke and broken trees. Every breath felt like a countdown to death. Drones circled above like metal birds, flashes of light searching for enemies. His mind raced, wondering what had happened to the girl's mother. Was she alive? Was she searching? Was she dangerous? The child held onto him tighter, whispering again and again, "Mother, Find. Ryan looked down at her and felt something he had not felt in years during the war. Responsibility for a life he should not have cared about, but did. He knew one thing now. If he left her, she would die, and if he saved her, the world might change, the war might shift, enemies might become something different. Ryan looked ahead at the burning forest path and whispered to himself, "I'm getting you out, no matter what." And the real story began in that moment. The moment a human soldier chose to protect an enemy child with his life, even if the entire galaxy stood against him. Ryan moved quickly through the burning forest, holding the small Vareen child close to his chest. Smoke curled around him like dark snakes, and the sound of explosions echoed far behind. The girl clung to his uniform. With tiny glowing claws, her breathing fast and frightened, every few steps she whispered the same word, "Mother." But her voice trembled like she wasn't sure her mother was alive. Ryan wanted to tell her everything would be fine, but he didn't even know if they would survive the next 10 minutes. The forest was no longer a safe place. Fire crawled up dead trees, sparks falling like dangerous stars. Ryan kept his eyes sharp, scanning every shadow. Because the shadows were moving, Vareen's search teams were not far behind. Their footsteps made the ground vibrate with a rhythm Ryan recognized. A hunting formation. They were tracking something, probably him and the child. Ryan knew Vareen warriors were fast, silent, and merciless when protecting their young. If they found him carrying the child, they would attack without thinking. A human holding a Vareen child meant only one thing to them: kidnapping. Ryan's breathing grew heavier as he reached an old broken shuttle half buried in the dirt. He quickly ducked inside, holding the girl tighter as he hid behind metal scraps. The shuttle smelled of rust and burned wires, but it was shelter, at least for a moment. He gently set the child down and checked her leg. It was swollen, bruised, and she winced when he touched it. He whispered, "I'm sorry, but we must keep going." She looked at him with wide blue eyes full of trust. It was strange to Ryan. In war he had seen hatred, fear, and violence, but never trust from an enemy child. Suddenly, a low rumble echoed outside. Ryan froze. He covered the girl's mouth softly to stop her from making a sound. Through the broken shuttle window he saw them, 3 tall Vareen hunters, their armor glowing with blue lines, their scanning devices clicking rapidly. One of them growled something in their language, frustration in his tone. They were close, too close. The girl trembled and grabbed Ryan's arm tightly. He whispered into her ear, "Stay quiet, little one," and prayed she understood. The hunters stepped around the shuttle, their boots inches away from where Ryan hid. For a moment, Ryan thought he would have to fight, but fighting would only kill them both. He held his breath, and slowly, the hunters moved away, their scanning lights fading into the trees. Ryan waited several minutes before moving again, every second feeling like an hour. When the danger passed, Ryan lifted the girl once more and stepped back onto the forest path. The sun was low now, and darkness was approaching. Night in the war zone meant death. Drones flew lower, predators came out, and lost landmines became impossible to see. Ryan had to reach safe ground before that happened. The child rested her head against his shoulder, tired from pain and fear. Ryan whispered, "What's your name?" She blinked sleepily and whispered, "Zira." Her voice was small but clear. Ryan repeated, "Zira. I will keep you safe." She looked at him silently, as if trying to understand how an enemy could speak like a protector. Suddenly the trees ahead shook. Ryan stopped instantly. He crouched low, hiding behind a stone. The sound grew louder. Engines, heavy engines. A Vareen armored transport landed not far away. Dust flying everywhere. Warriors stepped out, scanning the area. Then Ryan saw something that shocked him. A large banner on the transport showed a family symbol, the symbol of a Vareen high-ranking commander. And Zira's eyes widened the moment she saw it. She whispered one word with trembling, "Hope, Mother." Ryan's heart raced. If that was her mother's unit, then help was close. But danger was also close, because if the mother thought he was taking her daughter away, she might kill him first and listen later. Ryan took a deep breath and moved backward, avoiding the patrol. He needed to get closer to the mother without being seen by her soldiers. A hard task, almost impossible. But Zira wrapped her arms around his neck and whispered, "Human. Protect." And those two soft words gave Ryan a strength he didn't know he still had. The clouds above rumbled as drones flew in formation. Night was almost here. The entire forest seemed to come alive with danger. Ryan stepped onto a narrow cliff path, overlooking the valley below. He could see the evacuation route far away, a small broken bridge glowing faintly in the fading light. If he could reach that bridge, he might be able to signal peace forces who monitored the neutral zone. But between him and that bridge was a maze of enemy patrols, landmines and drones. Worse, he heard human gunships in the distance. If humans spotted the Vareen child with him, they might fire without warning. He was trapped between two sides, carrying the one life that could either save the galaxy or ignite another war. Ryan adjusted Zira in his arms and whispered, "Hold on, we're going to run." And then he sprinted down the cliff path as the first drone spotted their movement. Sirens wailed instantly. Lights exploded across the valley. Zira held onto him tightly as Ryan ran like his life depended on it. Because it did. And behind them, an alien mother's roar echoed through the forest, searching for her lost child, coming closer with every heartbeat. Ryan stood at the edge of a narrow mountain path, holding Zira tightly in his arms. Below them was a valley filled with broken machines, old landmines, and patrols from both sides. In the far distance, barely visible through smoke and fog, was the one hope they had, a broken evacuation bridge, blinking with a soft red signal light. It was the only way to cross into neutral space. The only place where he might call for help without being shot first. Ryan knew if he could reach that bridge, he could ask for peace forces to extract them. But getting there was like walking through death itself. Zira was getting weaker, her leg more swollen than before. Her little fingers clung to Ryan's armor, and her face pressed against his shoulder. She was tired, maybe falling asleep, but Ryan didn't have time to let her rest. Above them, enemy drones flew in circles, their red lights sweeping the mountains like searching eyes. Behind them, he could hear the faint roars of Vareen warriors getting closer. One of those roars shook Ryan deeply. It sounded different, louder, filled with something more than anger. It sounded like grief. And something told him that was Zira's mother. Ryan started moving down the cliff carefully. His boots slipped on loose rocks, but he kept one hand free to balance and the other around the child. The path narrowed with each step. One wrong move and they would fall into the valley below, filled with danger. Still, Ryan kept going, whispering to Zira, "Almost there. Stay with me." Her glowing eyes opened slightly, and she gave him a weak nod. Then, from the other side of the mountain, a sound ripped through the sky. Gunfire. A human patrol had seen them. A single shot hit the rock beside Ryan, sending shards flying. Ryan ducked quickly behind a boulder. He waved his hand high in the air and shouted, "Don't shoot, friendly." But he knew they wouldn't recognize him with a Vareen child in his arms. To them, he looked like a traitor or a hostage. Not a hero. More bullets followed. Ryan had no choice. He turned away from the humans and continued toward the broken bridge. As he reached the base of the cliff, a deep growl came from the trees. Ryan turned fast and froze. A massive creature stood before him. It was not human, and not fully Vareen either. It looked like some kind of war beast, tall and armored. Glowing blue with rage, it was bred for battle. Ryan stepped back, clutching Zira. The beast growled again, then charged. Ryan dove to the side just in time, falling into a patch of wet mud. He rolled and got up quickly, shielding Zira with his body. The beast turned and charged again. Ryan pulled out a flash grenade and threw it at the last second. A burst of white light blinded the beast. Giving him a few seconds, he ran with all his strength, trees flashing by. His breath tight in his chest. He could now see the bridge ahead, narrow, broken in places, wires hanging down. Ryan didn't stop. He stepped onto the shaking metal structure. His boots echoed on the rusted floor, and the wind blew hard across the open gap. One wrong step could send them both falling into the sharp rocks below. Zira opened her eyes again and whispered, "I remember this bridge. Mother crossed here before." Ryan looked down at her, surprised. "This way leads to your people?" She nodded slowly. He realized they were heading right into the Vareen mother's territory. The mother would be waiting on the other side, but there was no turning back. Now not with soldiers behind and monsters around. Suddenly, another drone flew in. Locking onto Ryan's heat signature, a red target dot appeared on his chest. Ryan didn't think. He jumped across a broken gap in the bridge, landing hard but safe. The drone fired, but missed. The blast hit the metal behind them, causing the bridge to shake violently. Ryan dropped to his knees and crawled the rest of the way, his arms wrapped tight around Zira. His heart raced, not from fear, but from hope. The other side was only a few meters away, but as he stood up, the trees ahead moved. Out stepped a tall figure, her armor cracked and glowing with fury. Her eyes locked on Ryan, then on the child in his arms. It was her, Zira's mother, Commander Talira, and she looked ready to kill. Ryan held up one hand slowly. "She's safe," he said calmly. "I saved her." Talira stepped forward, her sharp weapons drawn. Her soldiers came out behind her, aiming at Ryan. Zira stirred, lifted her head and cried, "Mother!" The word cut through the forest like thunder. Talira stopped moving. Her face changed from rage to shock. Her daughter was alive, and she was in the arms of a human. The moment felt frozen in time. Ryan didn't move. Talira stared at him with wide, unreadable eyes, and behind them, the bridge cracked again, warning that time was running out. The reunion had begun, but no one knew if it would end in peace or in blood. Commander Talira stood still, her tall body tense. Her armor shimmered with pulsing blue veins, her claws half drawn. Her eyes stared at the small child in the human's arms. Her child, her daughter Zira. The world seemed to stop spinning. In that moment, everything Talira had feared, everything she had destroyed to find her daughter, was now standing in front of her. In the arms of a human soldier, the enemy Zira reached out her hand weakly and whispered again, "Mother." Her voice was so soft it broke something inside the hardened commander. The other Vareen warriors behind her raised their weapons, ready to shoot. But Talira raised her arm sharply, stopping them. Ryan didn't move. His legs trembled, not from fear, but from the weight of the moment. He could feel Zira's heartbeat against his chest. Fast but hopeful, he didn't speak. He knew one wrong word could end everything. Talira stepped forward slowly, her boots crunching the broken earth. Her voice was cold but cracking. "You brought her here?" Ryan nodded, keeping his voice calm. "I found her trapped, scared, alone," he said. "I couldn't leave her behind." Talira's eyes narrowed. "You expect me to believe a human risked his life to save a Vareen child?" Ryan didn't blink. "No," he replied. "I don't expect anything. I just did what I thought was right." Zira's hand reached for her mother again. "He helped me," she said. "He made the scary men go away." Talira's face tightened. Her claws lowered just slightly. Her daughter was alive because of this human. It didn't make sense, but it was real. Her mind spun with confusion. Humans were supposed to destroy, not protect. This one didn't match the stories, the training, the warnings. Still, she had spent days tearing through battlefields searching for Zira, burning everything in her way, and now her daughter was here, untouched, breathing, speaking. "I should kill you," Talira said in a low voice. "Every law says I should." Ryan nodded again. "Then do it," he said. "But let her go first." He gently put Zira down and stepped away, showing he wasn't using her as a shield. Zira tried to stand, her injured leg shaking. "No." "Mother," she cried. He is good, he is kind. Talira looked at her child, really looked. And for the first time in many cycles, she hesitated. The human had placed his own life between death and a child who wasn't even his own. No soldier, not even her best warriors, had ever done that. One of the Vareers behind Talira growled, "Commander, this is a trick. The human is lying." Another one stepped forward. "Let us finish him." But Talira didn't move. Her eyes stayed locked on Ryan. "Why?" she asked. "Why save her?" Ryan took a deep breath. His answer was simple. "Because she was crying," he said. "Because she was afraid, and because I couldn't leave a child to die." The silence after his words was long and heavy. Even the wind held its breath. Zira limped toward her mother and wrapped her small arms around Talira's leg. "He carried me when I couldn't walk," she whispered. "He made me laugh when I cried." Talira's arms slowly lowered, her weapons powered down, her heart, a heart trained for war, began to ache in a strange way. This human hadn't just saved her child. He had protected her, comforted her, maybe even loved her in a way that no soldier had ever shown. Talira knelt down, eye level with Zira. "Are you hurt?" she asked softly. Zira nodded a little. "Leg hurts, but I'm okay." Talira looked up at Ryan again. The human was exhausted, wounded, but didn't step back or beg for mercy. He was ready to die if it meant the child was safe. And that made him something rare, something dangerous, something honorable. "You will come with us," Talira said finally. "You will face the Vareen Council." Ryan didn't protest. "Fine," he said, "but I stay with her." Talira nodded once. Zira smiled weakly and held both their hands in that strange moment. Human and Vareeran stood together, not as enemies, but as protectors of a child. Soldiers around them lowered their weapons slowly, unsure but obeying the commander's silence. As the sun disappeared behind the broken mountains, Ryan walked beside Talira and her forces into unknown territory, surrounded by enemies. But something had changed. Something powerful had started, a bond stronger than orders, stronger than species, stronger than war. And though the road ahead was full of danger, Ryan didn't look back, because he wasn't just carrying a child anymore. He was walking with something bigger than peace. He was walking with trust, and the galaxy would never be the same again. Ryan walked through the heart of Vareen territory with silence pressing down like heavy armor. The alien soldiers marched beside him, their weapons lowered but ready. Some of them stared at him with hate, others with confusion. None trusted him, not fully. The glowing walls of the Vareen stronghold curved above him, built from living metal and crystal. It was a place no human had ever entered and walked out alive. Yet here he was, not as a prisoner, but as a guest of the war commander. Zira held his hand tightly, limping on her bad leg. Her mother, Commander Talira, walked on the other side, never letting Ryan out of her sight. The silence between them was loud. Every step they took brought them closer to the Vareen High Council, the most powerful and feared leaders of the alien race. Ryan didn't know what to expect, a trial, an execution, or something worse. But he stayed calm for one reason only: Zira. She had chosen to stay close to him, even in her mother's presence. That meant something, something bigger than he understood. The grand chamber of the Vareen Council was made of glowing pillars and floating lights. Each council member sat on a tall seat shaped like the spine of a great beast. They were old, wise, and dangerous. Their skin was marked with battle scars and glowing patterns of rank. When Ryan stepped into the center with Zira beside him, the room fell quiet. Then the questions began. Why is this human here? One voice hissed, "He crossed into sacred land." Another growled, "He should be punished." Came a third, sharper voice. Talira stepped forward, her voice calm but hard. "He is here because he saved my daughter," she said. "He carried her across fire, through gunshots, and returned her alive, without asking for reward." The council stirred, their faces unreadable. Some looked shocked, others suspicious. One leaned forward and stared at Ryan. "Is that true, human? Did you?" Touch a Vareen child with kindness. Ryan met their gaze. Yes, he said simply. She was scared. She needed help. I gave it. A long silence followed. Then one counselor snapped. He lies. It's a trick. Another agreed. He's a soldier. They don't help, they destroy. Zira stepped forward, her small voice echoing in the chamber. He carried me when I couldn't walk, she said. He gave me food, water. He sang to me when I cried. That statement caused a stir. Talira added, she is not lying. One of the elders stood, his voice deep and shaking with age. We cannot let emotion blind us. This human broke into our lands. He must face judgment. Zira held tighter to Ryan's arm. No, she whispered, don't hurt him. Ryan looked around the chamber, then took a deep breath. You want the truth? He said, the war is over, but both sides are still acting like it's not. I didn't cross your land to harm anyone. I only wanted to protect her. He pointed to Zira gently. That's all, that's it. One of the counselors frowned. Then why not leave her? Why risk your life? Ryan looked at them all and said, because she looked at me like a child, not an alien. Those words seemed to pierce the cold walls of the room. The elders looked at each other, unsure. This wasn't what they expected from a human. Talira stepped forward again. I saw him. I watched him shield her from bullets. I watched him refuse to run when death was near. Then she looked directly at the oldest counselor and added something that made the room go completely still. I name this human as a protector under my house, she said. He is no longer enemy. Gasps filled the air. The counselor stood tall. You offer him protection? As family? Talira nodded. Yes, I do. Zira smiled for the first time in days. Ryan blinked in shock. Family? He whispered. The council whispered among themselves, debating in hushed tones. After minutes of silence, the final decision came. The council leader raised a hand. Very well. The child lives, the mother forgives, and the human is spared. Ryan exhaled slowly. But the counselor wasn't done. However, he added, the human must stay in our territory under watch. He is not to leave unless granted by the council. Ryan nodded. Fine by me. As they walked out of the chamber, Zira held his hand and giggled softly. Her pain seemed lighter, her steps stronger. Talira walked beside them, silent but thoughtful. She looked at Ryan and said, You've changed something here. Ryan smiled, tired but relieved. Maybe I just did what anyone should have done. Talira's eyes softened. No, she sighed. No one else would have. The stars above the Vareen sky glowed quietly. For the first time in years there was no war, and somewhere deep in that alien land, a bond had formed between a soldier and a child. A bond strong enough to shake a galaxy. Days passed inside the Vareen stronghold, and Ryan was still adjusting to a world that hated him, but no longer tried to kill him. He stayed in a guarded chamber made of living stone and soft light. Watched day and night by silent Vareen warriors, they didn't speak to him, didn't trust him, but they no longer aimed their weapons at his head. That was progress. At least Zira visited him every morning, limping on her healing leg, carrying strange alien fruit and sometimes drawings she made on glowing paper. She talked to him about her dreams, her favorite stars, her fear of fire, and her mother's strict rules. Ryan listened to everything. He smiled when she laughed and helped her when she stumbled. Every moment he spent with her felt more real than anything in the war. She was not a mission anymore. She was family one day. Talira entered the chamber quietly. She watched from the doorway as Ryan gently helped Zira climb onto a chair. He didn't notice her at first. His focus was on the child. That small moment struck something deep inside the alien commander. She stepped forward and said, She is happier now. Ryan turned, surprised but nodded. She's strong. She recover fully. Talira crossed her arms, her voice calmer than before. She sings in her sleep now. Before, during the war, she only cried. Ryan didn't know what to say, so he simply replied, Then I'm glad I found her. Talira walked closer. You changed her. She said, "You changed me." Ryan raised an eyebrow. "How?" She looked away for a moment, thinking, "When the war started, I believed humans were soulless killers. I taught my soldiers that your people destroy everything they touch." She turned to face him again. "But you touched nothing, and still gave everything." The words hung heavy in the air. Zira looked up between them, smiling. "Mama says you're strange," she giggled. Ryan chuckled. "That's the nicest thing I've heard all day." Talira smiled slightly, the first real smile he had seen from her. It didn't last long. Her expression turned serious again. "The council is watching," she said. "They wait for you to fail, for proof that my trust was a mistake." Ryan nodded slowly. "Then I won't fail." Later that evening, Talira invited him to a private meeting with Vareen scientists and peacekeepers. They were discussing a possible new alliance with humans, but no one trusted the idea yet. Ryan stood before a table full of maps, statistics, and old battle records. He spoke carefully. "We've fought for years. Both sides lost too much, maybe. Now it's time we share something different. Information, resources, even trust." One Vareen elder hissed, "Why should we believe your kind wants peace?" Ryan didn't argue. He placed a small holochip on the table and pressed it. A projection of Earth cities appeared, full of rebuilding efforts, doctors helping wounded Vareen prisoners, human children holding peace banners. "We want peace," Ryan said, "but not through words, through action." Some of the aliens looked away. Some leaned forward, curious. One of them said, "He speaks like a leader." Talira added, "He speaks like a father." When the meeting ended, Ryan stepped outside into the cold Vareen night. The twin moons floated above the towers. Soft and pale, Zira came running, laughing, holding something in her hands. It was a gift, a bracelet made from starlight threads. She placed it on his wrist and said, "Now you're one of us." Ryan knelt, touched her forehead gently and smiled. "Then I'll protect you like one of mine." That night, Ryan was allowed to walk freely in the stronghold for the first time. Some warriors bowed their heads as he passed. Others didn't look at him at all. But one thing was clear. He was no longer just a human. He was the man who carried a Vareen child through fire, the one who faced death without asking for anything, the one who made even warriors listen. Talira met him on a balcony later, her voice soft. "They are starting to believe." Ryan looked at the stars. "Good, it's a start." She turned toward him, her face unreadable. "And what about you?" He glanced at her. "What about me? Will you go back?" She asked, "To your world?" Ryan was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "I don't know if Earth is my world anymore." Talira said nothing, but she didn't leave either. They stood side by side under the twin moons, two soldiers who had once been enemies, now standing in peace. Below them, Zira danced in circles, laughing. And for the first time since the war began, the night felt warm, like hope was possible. Like maybe, just maybe, a new future had begun. Weeks passed, and everything around Ryan had changed. But something inside him had changed even more. He no longer wore human armor, no longer carried orders from a military leader. Now he carried memories, laughter, the sound of a little alien girl calling him protector in her soft voice. He was still watched, still tested. But now, more often, he was greeted with nods, respect, even quiet smiles. The man once seen as an enemy was now something different, something harder to define. Zira's leg had healed. She now ran freely in the bright tunnels of the Vareen stronghold. Her laughter echoed through the chambers like music. She wore a bracelet made from earth metal and Vareen crystal, a sign of unity between two species who once tried to destroy each other, and on her other hand, she always held Ryan's fingers. She never let go, not even in sleep. Talira watched them often from a distance. Her soldier's heart had softened, but her pride remained. She had seen too much pain to trust easily, but every time she saw Ryan kneel to help Zira with her boots, or listen to her long stories without interruption, something deep in her chest warmed. She had lost everything during the war: family, honor, purpose, but now standing in the quiet after the chaos, she had found something more rare than victory. She had found peace one morning. She called Ryan to the ceremonial chamber. It was a room shaped like a circle of stars, where important life decisions were made. Ryan entered slowly, unsure, but respectful. Talira stood in front of the council. Zira stood beside her in a ceremonial robe, and her eyes lit up when she saw Ryan. She ran to him and hugged his legs tightly. "You're late," she said playfully. Ryan smiled and whispered, "I'm never late for you." The council leader stood, his voice deep and calm. "Human," he said, "you have passed every test. You have been trusted with what no alien before you has ever held, our child. Our future." Ryan didn't speak, just listened. Talira stepped forward and held out a small box made of starlight wood. "This is not war," she said. "This is not judgment." She opened the box. Inside was a pendant, half Vareen, half human, fused by crystal light. She looked into Ryan's eyes, her voice softer than ever. "This is a bond," she said. "If you accept, you will not return to Earth as a soldier." She paused, then added something Ryan didn't expect. "You will stay here as Zira's guardian and as my chosen." Ryan stood in silence, the moment too large to fit in words. He looked at Zira, who smiled and nodded. "You're already my papa," she whispered. He looked at Talira, tall, proud, fierce, and still holding out the pendant. He took a breath, then slowly reached out and accepted the gift. He didn't need to ask what it meant. He already knew. The council gave a rare sign of approval. They all stood. Ryan was no longer just a human. He was now something ancient, sacred, bonded, not by blood, but by choice. The ceremony ended quietly. There was no celebration, just peace later. Ryan stood on the high balcony of the stronghold, looking at the stars. Talira joined him, silent for a while. Then she asked, "Do you regret it?" Ryan shook his head. "No," he said. "I only regret not finding her sooner." Talira smiled faintly. "She speaks of you in her dreams." Ryan turned to her. "And what do you dream of?" She didn't answer with words. Instead, she gently touched his hand, and they stood side by side, watching the stars move across the sky like old songs playing without sound. Far below, Zira was playing with other Vareen children. She had told them proudly, "My protector is a human. He carried me through fire," and they believed her. Not because she was the commander's daughter, but because they had seen him walk among them without fear, without armor, just with heart that night. In the quiet of a world that was once torn by war, a human, an alien commander, and a little girl shared one home. Not because of treaties or politics, but because a soldier made a choice to protect instead of destroy. And that choice changed a galaxy. From that day forward, stories were told. Across both human and Vareen space, stories of a soldier who saved an enemy child, and who was claimed by her mother not as a prize, but as a partner. And those stories ended with the same simple words, spoken by a little voice. He stayed because he cared, and that was enough.